Thank you very much. Allow me quickly to say a little bit more about my background so that you know where I come from in the things that I'm going to say. I worked 10 years here in the Parliament in the 80s with the Greens, so I have that kind of background. Then went into journalism, started up Euractiv.com, the website that you probably know of, that some of you might know, where I was editor-in-chief for 8 years. And then 5 years ago, I left because I wanted to concentrate more on climate change, energy, environment, and the link with the economy. That's why I went much more into social media writing and set up a blog called 3E Intelligence for these three words: energy, environment, and economy. And I set up another one which is called The Great Transition. You can look at both if you want to see them. If you do a Google, you find it easily. I've also done in the last years quite a lot of business consulting on sustainability and on these kind of issues. So that's where I come from. Now, I'm probably not going to answer all your questions, Philippe, but you've asked for an alternative narrative, and I hope I can give some of the elements of an alternative narrative in what I'm going to present now. I think, first of all, to have an alternative narrative, you need to understand why we have this crisis. And I think there are two fundamental roots to the crisis. The first one, and we have been talking about it, is of course the 30 years of neoliberal debt consumption-based global economy that we can actually call the Wall Street first economy, the casino capitalism, or I call it the boom and bust capitalism. And of course that has led to this economic debt crisis that we have now. But actually this is based, the fact that this collapsed was actually because we have another crisis which is much more fundamental but is slower and not always understood by everybody, and that's the ecological debt crisis. And the ecological debt crisis has to do with energy scarcity, with resource scarcity, prices of those resources also rising, and in fact more and more competition because of globalization, China, India wanting all these resources also for themselves, etc., etc. And there has been very good work being done by Professor Hamilton in the US, who has made this link between the ecological debt crisis and the economic debt crisis. Basically, it means for the last 30 years we have been living above our means, which you can also see in the ecological footprint. I've been European director also for Global Footprint Network, the people who have come up with this concept in the first place. So what does it mean? It means basically we have a shrinking economy, and we have a shrinking economy because we have a shrinking planet. And what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of policies? Well, I have a few answers there. First of all, I think we need to recapture the austerity narrative. We should not let it to the guys who are in charge of it now. The austerity narrative, we have been living above our means. If your budget has been exceeded, well, at some point you need to save money. So austerity makes some sense, but not the austerity that is being introduced now. I want a just and an austerity for the rich, first of all. That's, I think, where we need to start, because the rich have actually declared class war on the rest of society, and it is time for us to answer that. That's the first point. Secondly, we need to put in the middle of our economy, of our economic thinking, well-being, and no longer growth. That doesn't mean we don't need growth. In a lot of countries, in developing countries, we still need growth. They have to grow to get out of poverty, to get jobs, etc., etc. But in the West, I think we need to concentrate much more on well-being, and this discussion on beyond GDP in that sense is therefore also very important. I think we need therefore also for the union movement to be able to get over this taboo of the welfare state. We have to be able to question the welfare state. I want to replace the welfare state with a well-being state. Of course, always taken into consideration that you need to redistribute wealth in that sense a lot and in a very strong way. On labor policies, I think of course, we need decent and just labor, well-designed labor institutions, but we need to de-link well-being from labor. And I think there are two ways. That's talking about, Philippe, what you said, working time. We have to question that. I think we have to really think about that carefully. The other point is we can do that by looking at minimum income. We just mentioned it in the debate before, but at the time, as I said in my intervention, and if we look at minimum income, we need to look at the same time at maximum income, so at a cap on how rich you can be, basically. Then the next point is industry policies. We need targeted industry policies. We need, as Bas said, kind of and foresight industrial policies. We need, I think, we need a lot of manufacturing back. A lot of the blue-collar workers have gone to China. We have to get those back. Not all of those, but we actually, because they have to grow too, but we should actually get manufacturing back to Europe. We also, I think, need to get more people into agriculture again, but not the industrial model that we have known. We need to get them into green agriculture, ecological agriculture. And we need a revolution in business. And by the way, there are businesses, like Kathleen said, who are thinking about it, who are actually understanding it, but they have difficulties to really find all the answers. In terms of European policies, we've had this morning an intervention, we need more Europe. I agree to a certain extent. I don't want more Europe if it is the Europe that we've had with 1992 and the Agenda 2020, etc. That's not the Europe that I want. For that, for instance, it's not the fiscal compact that's going to get us out of the crisis. For that, I have on my blog developed the idea of a Phoenix Europe project, because I think Europe is actually now going really to waste and is going to end up in the ashes. And then last but not least, we need to redefine market versus regulation. The extreme market instrument-based approaches that we have had have completely failed. We need to think about regulation, more regulation, but it needs to be smarter regulation. The role of the state is very important. And there, two sectors have to be tackled first. That is the financial sector that has to be tackled, and we need a radical reform and not all the blah, blah, blah that is on the table now. And secondly, we need finally to go after the fossil fuel sector, because they are blocking really the sustainability advance that we need. So that's where I want to leave it for now. Thanks.